Hi everyone, this is season number 2, episode 3 of the Data Role podcast. Today, my guest is Dragos Gabriel, Business Development Manager at Lafik. Dragos, welcome to my studio.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today.
To start with, how about you tell our audience what you do on a daily basis, what's your role in your company, what's your background, since I know that you do have a pretty vast background and interest in the iGaming sphere.
Sure. So I should probably start out by defining myself perhaps as an iGaming enthusiast, been interested in this area for over a decade ago. So actually my practical work experiences has been towards the customer service, customer support, sales, call centers. And of course I had also different other roles that I worked However, my ideal industry for me, where everything clicked, was the iGaming industry.
And what are your responsibilities today?
Yes, currently I'm representing Lafik, Business Development Manager. And for those who don't know, Lafik is a marketing solutions provider. They offer tools such as SMS, voice AI, tools for basically any type of company that they are engaging with customers. And those tools, they are helping those companies to engage with their clients in the right moment and at the right time. So, of course, having the experience and the background that I'm having and also my interest towards the iGaming industry, it's like a perfect mix in which we are trying to do great things together.
Seems like the perfect combination. And since today our topic is a combination as well, we want to speak about data, but also about passion and player expectations. So when it comes to iGaming, what do you believe what is the true motivation for the people to participate? There's certainly many aspects, but what are those aspects that go only just beyond the chance of winning? I have actually an interesting example. Yesterday, I was meeting few friends out on a dinner, and I have learned that one of them is like huge enthusiast of any contests and sweepstakes. So basically he said that he participated in at least 80 different competitions and he won in 14 of them. And believe me, 2 weeks ago, they returned from ski trip in Switzerland, which they won on one of those competitions. So the chance of winning, there's some people who are more lucky than the others, and this is certainly a motivator. What do you think are any other things that stand out to you?
For me, when I'm talking about iGaming or the entertainment aspect of the iGaming industry, so I'm also having the practical experience. I played on a yearly basis poker and going to live poker tournaments, and also I have some practical experience with sports betting. Way before I started coming on the other side and representing also the interest of the members themselves on the platforms. So I think certainly when it comes to iGaming, the main motivator, at least from my point of view, from my perspective, is that they are looking for entertainment and they are looking for that social aspect in a sense in which they are looking to have like a connection depending of what type of member or client profile we are speaking of. My background was towards the iGaming segment. However, based on experience, I think any member or player that is looking to have a session is looking for a bit of adrenaline, a bit of risk, a bit of fun, and a bit of social interaction. Because recently we noticed that, in some areas I've read that there is like a social type of loneliness epidemic. People, they are not engaging that much. They have anxiety. I'm having friends. Of course, they have a more strictly technical background. They are engineers and they are not really comfortable with having meetings or phone calls or something. My type of job would be a total hell for them. But I'm totally the opposite. I enjoy the human interaction. And yes, I think it's the same thing with some of the iGaming members. They are seeking and they are looking some fun moments, some relaxing moments. But I'm curious to ask, if you don't mind, Stanislav, you've worked on data projects for years. Do numbers alone show us these deep motivators, or there is more beneath the surface that data can't always capture? What do you think?
Oh, I didn't really expect that question, but yeah, certainly. Let's take a look. You've got 2 or 3 elements. Let's start with the first. The first one would be we usually split the data into quantitative and qualitative. And usually my job revolves around processing tons of data, billions of transactions, deposits. Every single stake or bet is something that I analyze on a daily basis. So everything that we can measure. And when we have enough volume, when we have broadened the scope of the data that we capture, because one thing is about how much in terms of volume do we have, also how much of the different data points do we capture. When we have a pretty decent coverage, when we have a wide coverage, we can definitely discover much more than what is usually believed that can be achieved. And for example, thanks to tools such as Mixpanel and other tools that analyze the behavior, this applies to players in the iGaming, but this goes also beyond the iGaming industry, like e-commerce too. What we can do is that we can analyze and segment how the people react in order to identify those patterns that a basic report will not show you. This is one thing, so about the quantity. The other is about the qualitative data, surveys, feelings, emotions. This can be captured. It's harder to measure. At least one thing for sure, we can capture this. The question is how to measure, and this is the hardest part. Certainly, we've already got techniques such as sentiment analysis. It used to be called also data mining like a decade ago, and text mining, and especially with the AI today, we can apply it to a broader scale, but still you have room for interpretation. And finally, there's, I would say, always going to be a piece of story which is not told in the numbers, which is not told in the surveys, in the qualitative data either. Now, depending whom you ask, you will get a different idea how much percentage it is, the untold. To me, I would say 10 to 15. I know that someone else might say 40 or 60, but we've all get to have our own opinion around this.
Of course. Okay, so the source, I mean, the data that you take into account is not a certain types. You're trying to have like complex amount of data that include also emotions and different factors.
This is going to be when especially the bigger operators, they will want to build something that we call the quote single customer view. So this means that you connect data coming from the different systems, and this can be the PAM, it can be the CRM, it can be, for example, Zendesk or a customer service where you have the communication. And whenever one of the employees gets into an interaction with the player, they know all of the interactions, not only their activity, but they also know that that person called during the last week due to, for example, a credit card getting declined, or perhaps a deposit that was due, but for some reason, for a bug of the platform, it was not credited. And this allows to better connect with those players as well. And what do you think, in your experience? Because now I'm thinking about different elements that can bring the value into the relation with the players. About the empathy, how would that be important in the interactions in iGaming? Have you seen a shift from a, let's say, purely logical approach towards communication which is more emotion-driven? What do you think?
Mr. Stanislav, empathy is something that should be essential when it comes to the customer interaction, and also humanity. We should not, limit ourselves only to a specific set of feelings. So usually when we are dealing with members, we should focus on accommodating all of their concerns or emotions. So empathy itself, it's something that would be more towards the customer service area. From my perspective and from my point of view, I'm feeling that there is a big distinction when it comes to customer support and customer experience. Customer experience is something where the second part of the question comes in. So we are looking at an approach that is tailored according to the member itself, while the customer support itself, I am seeing this area a more of reactive aspect in which, of course, empathy is essential in any part. You should emphasize with the customer's concern or concerns or everything. But when it comes to the second part of the question, I actually had at some point like a small test, but not a test. When I'm working, I'm trying to enjoy. In this sense, I'm not working. I'm having fun. I'm curious about stuff. I want to test and I want to understand exactly what I am doing and what I can do to make it better. So at some point, I noticed that my engagement with some specific members or clients, it was not really that efficient in specific scenarios. And for example, members from specific region, they engage and they express their concerns or their questions to a specific topic through logical, rational type of filter. And while others, they replied and they expressed their concerns through an emotional, affective way. So I started recording those type of emails. So I said, hey, let me try to understand. Let me see what's the pattern behind this. And exactly as a work philosophy, I believe that everyone should take into account the way things are being said, not only what is being said, because our reply should be also adjusted to the receiver of this message. For example, if a client sends you an email and explains, hey, I feel like I'm not treated with respect or I'm not treated fairly. I mean, someone, a first look at this type of email will just say what happened and just to do some background check and, weight the decision through pure logical and rational filters and try to approach the situation directly with facts-based. But to some people, some type of individuals, they do not operate through those filters. And I have to admit, even myself, years ago, while I was reading some of the ancient Greek philosophers, I was thinking in my mind that I'm a purely logical type of person. But yeah, I've come to the conclusion that there are no individuals that they are strictly or purely one type, logical or emotional. Yes, of course, some of them, they are more emotional and others are strictly logical. But yes, I think we should balance those aspects, not only in our work life and our interaction with the clients and business partners, but also in our personal lives. Because, sometimes we can try to bring facts to someone who is not really caring about those facts.
And actually, just one thing, I think we owe our audience a small explanation because oftentimes you use the word members. Can you please say a bit, what do you mean?
Members, it's my personal feeling in a sense in which I prefer to call them members, to refer to when I used to work strictly in the iGaming industry. So I prefer to refer to them as members because I feel that it's a small thing that I can do out of respect for them. If I call them players, I feel that I'm referring to them as numbers and there is no really actual care about them. We can have a look at the situation. Maybe it's an absurd example, but at Starbucks, the Starbucks staffs do not refer to myself when I go and buy a coffee. Oh, look at Dragos, the coffee drinker just arrived. We should not refer to them as the action that they are doing. So players play, of course, but they are members. Some of them, based on experience, again, there are members that they do not play for winning. They don't care about winning. It's about much more. It's sometimes they just to take their mind off their daily things or just looking for the social aspect of this experience. Stanislav, managing data teams, I can imagine it involves a lot of numbers. And I'm curious to ask you, how do you keep everyone aware that are real people behind those numbers?
Okay, so based on the experience working with the operators that I support, because this is the one that I can refer to, usually the ones who keep working on the front lines do not need that much of convincing, because even, let's imagine, we speak about customer service or RG team, the responsible gaming team. They are able to listen to real-life stories, some of which can be joyful, others deeply saddening or worrying. They do not need convincing with respect to that. They already know that they're talking to real people, at least from my observation, and compassion and empathy are core values that they cherish in their daily job. Then you might take a look at the marketing folks, and my personal experience working with the operators is that they don't need convincing either, especially when you speak to the VIP managers. they are responsible for pretty often 90% of the revenue that the operator is making. So forcibly, I have no doubt it's in the highest interest of them that they make their clients, members feel appreciated. So this is about the core teams, the ones who are on the front lines, who are customer facing. The backend people, let's say, those who are in the backstage, behind the curtain, for example, the data teams. People crunch and process billions of data. Many data engineers, they do treat their job as something which is purely mechanical and technical. They pull the data, they push the data, they process the data. And for them, yes, certainly on one day they're processing data about the people. Another day they could be processing data about e-commerce purchases, for example. And what I like to do and I like to practice, I'd like to team the data engineers with analysts who are closer to the core business. And this way it naturally involves interaction that helps to build the understanding and also the sense and meaning behind the job that they're doing. So this is important. Actually, what just came to my mind, because we mentioned customer service, responsible gaming. This is a revolving story about the role of the responsible gaming in iGaming itself. And what's your thoughts on the whole concept and how do you see that it affects the day-to-day operations? And where do you see that there's the line between healthy entertainment and exaggeration and overindulgence? What are your thoughts about this?
So, of course, responsible gambling, I feel like, is not affecting the iGaming experience. I feel like it's enhancing it. I think responsible gaming is something that should be thing that is invested by both parts, both the members and both the operators. And at the end of the day, having the necessary tools and, everything, like all the features that a member needs to have full control over his or her sessions is something essential and is going to promote a long-term value of a member on the platform. This is from one perspective, from one point of view, but a healthy line, I see it strictly as entertainment in a sense in which some adults, I'm strictly speaking about responsible gaming about adults, but I should also mention that I'm having some concerns regarding with the traditional gaming, Mr. Stanislav, because it's an aspect that includes some gambling and there are also underage young adults that they are engaging with this type of traditional gaming, and they don't have control over their sessions. They don't have the option to self-exclude or something like this, or to have some like a reminder. Hey, you spent 100 hours playing this week. So yeah, a healthy session or something that is strictly into the entertainment aspect is like it should be when you go out with the friends, maybe watch a game together, and if you bet a small amount that you can afford to lose it, and if again going back to the emotional part, if your emotions are not going to be impacted in a negative way for the fact that you lost that bet, you can go for it. It's for entertainment. It's going to add some weight to the game that you're going to watch it. So yeah, something casual, something that you can do it maybe the friends. It will be healthy and safe and responsible limit. So be responsible. Thanks, Slav. So you've seen how data can spot patterns and trends. Yeah, you are the guy in this area. Do you think analytics alone can flag the risky behavior early, or do you think there is still the need to do the manual checking and to have this human touch to confirm what's really going on?
It's certainly needed. The human touch, yes, it is, and it will remain invaluable regardless of whatever technological advancements do we have. But it can be strongly supported by machine learning, for example, by the algorithms. So I cannot imagine a dehumanized process for responsible gaming. That's on one hand. On the other, at the same time, the human-led process also relies on numbers and KPIs. Like, for example, if we had GGR of this specific player over 4K, for example, over a specific period, then perhaps we should write them an email or ask them for a proof of fortune. This is also relying on number, especially when working at scale, when you have thousands of players in the regulated markets as well, where you need to explain your working procedures to the regulator. You need to back your decisions and your business processes by numbers, because this is understandable. So just to give you an example, we have implemented an early detection model for identifying problematic gambling at an early stage. And this was actually a huge success. So one of the operators that we have seen, we took a look and we examined what was their decision model, the manual process. And I just gave you one of the examples. It was a series of if, then. Maybe they didn't spend 4,000, but they connected 15 times per day. Let's say, just to give you an example. Or maybe they didn't connect 15 times per day, but their credit card was blocked 2 times. So, this series of if statements was the process as is, approved by the regulator, who is pretty strict in that country. And when we actually performed the backtesting of this manual process, we realized that the process was letting 50%, half of the problematic gamblers, through. So this means that at an early stage, it failed to detect half of the people that should be stopped or maybe sent a warning, or maybe send some alert or email or just a reminder that, hey, perhaps you should take a break. Those people were able, within a regulated market, regulated operator, they were able to continue, and perhaps some of them went too far. I cannot tell you now how many out of those 50% that were not early detected went too far, but still it shows that there is a lot of holes in this manual process. So again, like half of those people should be identified, they were not, they continue playing, instead of receiving an alert or warning. Yes, and we have helped this operator to build a more robust solution and to move from 50% detection to 85% detection, thanks to machine learning. So this is brilliant, because suddenly you capture 85 out of every 100 people who should be warned at an early stage. Yes, you may say, hey, but what about the remaining 15? There's always a trade-off, because if you want to capture everyone, you just close your website and then 100% of the players will be detected early. Yeah. So you reach a certain point when crunching the data and when modeling and doing such predictions, because this is a predictive model, where actually you can be over aggressive in preventing people, and you reach a point where you actually, in order to prevent 95 instead of 85, you need to block perhaps 1,000 people, like a false positive, without actually having any ground, by mistake, simply. Yes. So if you're then on the other extreme and you capture too many, you will eventually lose those players that perhaps you should have retained. So this is a consideration to be made.
Thanks, Travis. If you don't mind me asking, there is possible, because early on we were speaking about the responsible aspect between parts, because also the members. Do we have also some specific features for the members that they are abusive towards this relation between the operator?
Yes, this is a challenging task to capture, but one of the examples, since being abusive towards staff would be one of the criteria in the DSM-5 that define gambling addiction, when you actually meet 4 or 5 at least out of the 10 different aspects. And this is actually one of them. Of course, in a physical world, in the land-based, you can easily spot that somebody is rude to the staff, that they're not behaving correctly. In the online world, when somebody's clicking from their phone, you won't realize this, but suppose you process the data about the phone calls or chat messages, then that can be spotted. It's actually pretty standard and commonly available. You don't need to be a senior data engineer to actually plug to a model that detects emotions based on the voice recording. This is easily available. Even third-year students or second-year students of IT will be able to do it. So you don't need an army of highly skilled specialists. Sometimes you need just someone who has basic programming skills to plug into such services which are readily available, and then reuse them. So it may be easier than some might perceive.
Okay. But here I would like to, I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, from your global experience, do you think fairness should be defined by strict numbers and regulation, or does it also include how we treat the players or the members behind the scene?
Okay, I can give my personal perspective. I'll be curious to actually reverse that question back to you, so be ready for this. But before that, let me just share my thoughts on this. So fairness, numbers, regulations, and how we treat players behind the scenes. I would say both, but especially the latter part, how we treat the players. I know that you can say, hey, but you're the data guy. Still, fairness, I would say, is something universal, key to building long-lasting relationships when all the parties are winning, even if somebody is spending money and in exchange for entertainment. So now I mean not in the literal sense, but figurative. And this is part also the philosophy and values that when we work at Astro Forest that we like to represent, we treat our customers as partners, and this always goes both ways. So I would say that fairness is something that can be applied universally. But what do you think? How does it fit into the whole context that we discussed?
So, of course, from my perspective, I think if you as an investor or as an entrepreneur, you want to create an environment where everything is impeccable, 80-90% you can achieve that, choosing the right tools, the right license for the region and everything. But from my perspective, when we are talking about iGaming and gaming session and entertainment and fun and so on, we somehow exclude and forget the areas that they are the most exposed right now. From my perspective, at least, the iGaming industry is not perfect, but I mean, it's work in progress. Things are known. We are working towards a specific goal. However, when it comes to the traditional type of gaming, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a friend or have you heard about someone who just played on his computer or on his PlayStation phone for hours? I mean, he had like some sessions that they were like days.
So I don't need to look around. I remember my own childhood when we did so with friends, and perhaps it was not binge playing for more than one day. But yeah, 20 hours easy.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's my point that I'm trying to make currently. And also in the past sessions, I mean, the more the gaming industry has evolved, the average duration of a gaming session increased so much. So, right now, actually in the recent years, I've noticed that there is like tendency, there is actually a thing happening with the gambling aspect that is mixed with the traditional gambling. So this aspect involves the teenagers that they have also those big sessions. They don't have the option to self-exclude or to do something. They also have the gambling aspect in which they are investing money and gambling somehow for skins, for some specific in-game features. Yeah, or trading some loot boxes for specific games. So here I would point out that the traditional gaming landscape needs certainly the most attention these days because we are talking about underage adults, I mean underage individuals. They can easily get introduced to the gambling aspect and have this risk behavior which can translate into like a gambling issue, into some gambling issues later on in the adult light. So certainly I feel like traditional gaming landscape should be certainly reviewed and wrong.
Okay, and let me give you a last one from my side. When we speak about the iGaming industry and using data, since we're in the Data World podcast, I have to ask you this one. How can this industry balance out using data and being authentic in a more personal approach? What are your thoughts?
From my perspective, I think data is the foundation. Of course, it's essential. I mean, I imagine a boat that goes somewhere and data helps you reach the destination. However, I feel like the data should, as you mentioned earlier, should also take into account some other aspects that can help the staff members or the sales, the customer support individuals to understand and to have like some amount of info regarding the frustrations, the concerns maybe that the member had in the past. Of course, some amount of data can be obtained through some manual investigations, but to have like an authentic approach, I feel like data should also take into account the emotional aspect. Because studies have shown that a member or a client is more inclined to switch that service provider, not because of price reasons, but because they had a negative experience. So, of course, in any industry, I feel like not only the iGaming industry, but in any industry, some businesses, they have their own VIP clients. And if lifetime value, the amount of time that client is keep coming back and using those services is important for the business, I think taking into account the emotional aspect, because emotions are the main ingredient of a fantastic experience. At the end of the day, this is what we are talking about. It's entertainment. We should be relaxed, having fun, enjoy the session.
Awesome. Perfect. So I guess we'll be approaching the end of today's episode. Thank you, Dragos, for bearing with me and for all those questions and answers. I hope you enjoyed this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stanislav. And I also want to thank you, Magda, and the entire team behind the Data Roll podcast project, because I feel like it's an area where we can always return as a listener and keep finding out new information regarding the iGaming industry. So I would advise anyone who is interested into the iGaming industry to make sure that when Data Roll posts a new episode, they listen.
Also, awesome. Glad to hear this. So, guys, we'll be wrapping up for today with Dragos Gabriel. We spoke about data, we spoke about passion, and we spoke about player expectations and emotions. That's going to be it for today's episode. So, thank you guys for listening. I'm signing off right now. And remember, keep rolling with the data.